Hi, thank you for attending my defense. My dissertation title is The Experiences of Ethnic Minority Non-White Psychologists Who Work with White Clients. Special thanks to my chair, Dr. Kawahara, my reader, Dr. Bastian, and the outside reviewer, Dr. Kademi, for reviewing my dissertation. What got me interested in the topic is my personal experiences and background. I'm Iranian, and I grew up living in various different countries. And I lived in Denmark till I was 16, and then we moved to Toronto, Canada, very multicultural city. And then as an adult, I transferred into the doctoral program here at Alliant in California. So just having lived in different parts of the world got me really interested in multiculturalism, and the program got me interested in counseling. And then I had previous and currently working with minority clients, and I started doing research on ethnic minority psychologists, and I realized that it's so limited, and that's why I decided to pursue this topic, and obviously because I'm becoming an ethnic minority psychologist myself as well. Just to give a quick overview, we know that 21st century, it's an era of rapidly growing ethnic minorities, and by 2050, majority will be of non-European descent, and we're talking about the major racial groups: Latinos, African American, Black, Asian American, American Indian, Alaska Natives, and Pacific Islanders. As if we look closely at the number of psychologists, if we look at 1970s, the percentage of ethnic minority psychologists were less than 1%, but that number has been dramatically increasing, and in the year 2000s, right now we're at 15% of ethnic minority psychologists in the US, and the number has almost doubled over the past decade. And if we take a closer look at the different groups, 90% were white in year 2000, and that was followed by African American Black psychologists, 3.2%, and that was followed by Latino psychologists, and then Asian American and Native American. So ethnic minority psychologists are underrepresented, as we can see, but the number is dramatically increasing, which is the reason that I decided to pursue this topic for my dissertation. So the purpose of my study is to understand the lived experiences of these psychologists and just shed some light upon their competency, the challenges that they face, whether they discuss race and ethnicity in therapy, if there's any growth and development, and look for clinical implications. If we take a brief look at the literature, the main areas has been focused on ethnic and white psychologists and how they work with ethnic minority clients. And when we look at ethnic minorities, only a few studies have been done on psychologists, and it mostly has been performed on marriage and family therapists. There's a book on marriage and family therapists as well, and their experiences working with white and minority clients. And the literature just shows over and over again that ethnic minority therapists are better at treating ethnic minority clients. And when it comes to matching therapists and clients, there are still conflicting results. When we look at the few studies that look specifically at the experiences of ethnic minority psychologists and therapists, we know that language and accent seems to be a factor affecting therapy. Issues of racism and discussing race and ethnicity is still prevalent in the literature, and ethnic minority therapists tend to represent their culture, which puts a lot of strain on them. The methodology that I used was a exploratory and emergent design using semi-structured interview. Exploratory methods are often used when a problem has not been clearly defined, so it makes this approach very appropriate for my study. An emergent design does not propose an outline of all the details of the study in advance, so that allows me to be more flexible and in light of observing and discovering new information. The participants were 12 ethnic minority psychologists who worked with white clients, and they had to self-identify as ethnic minority. The data analysis was using the constant comparative method. The constant comparative method is just an inductive approach to data analysis in which the data is collected relating to the focus of inquiry, but there is no hypothesis is generated ahead of time. So it allows for common themes among the participants to emerge. So the semi-structured interviews were conducted. They lasted between 60 to 90 minutes. And then a pseudonym was assigned to each interview, and it was transcribed verbatim. And the interview, and then I read the transcriptions over and over again to make sure that nothing was missed. And then I started looking for units of meaning from the transcriptions. And the units of meaning were put together to form themes. These themes came from the units of meanings, and they were noted along with each unit of meaning that pertained to that theme. And if a unit of meaning did not fit into the pre-existing theme, a new theme was created. And after all the themes were identified, they were put into major themes or categories. And at that point, then I started realizing the relationship between both all the themes and if there was any pattern. And in this study, I proposed a model that I will discuss in my discussion as well. There was provisions of trustworthiness. I kept an auto trail that included all the interview guide. It included printed transcriptions, quotations from the transcription that support the themes, all the recorded interview tapes, field notes that contained my observations and documentations of the data analysis. I also kept the research journal that included information about my thoughts and observations and questions that came up throughout the process. Summary of my demographics. So I had 12, 7 female and 5 male ethnic minority psychologists. Ages ranged between 33 to 63. 2 were Iranian American, 4 African Americans, 3 Asian Americans, and 3 Latinos. Everybody resided in Southern California. 8 had PhDs, 3 PsyDs, and I had 1 who had a master's degree of science. And she was grandfathered into the field of psychology and became a licensed psychologist in the 70s, where you could become a licensed psychologist with a master's degree. The income average median was $87,500. 4 were born outside of the U.S., and the other 8 were all born here in the U.S. I had 8 major themes from the data. The first major theme was challenging circumstances throughout life. All participants experienced challenging situations in their lives. These memories were categorized into 4 sub-themes. The first one was lack of support from others. The participants believed that they were not supported or they lacked encouragement throughout their lives for a variety of different reasons, such as being a woman, raising a family, having discouraging supervisors or teachers, or working in environments that were not so supportive. Being the only one was another sub-theme. They felt like they were the only one of their race or ethnicity in their work, home, or social environment, and that put a lot of pressure on them. Many of the participants also talked about that they were victims of discrimination because of their race and ethnicity. I'm going to read you the quote by Corey. He said, "What I recall at this moment is going in middle school. Once I think in elementary school being called the N-word. A couple of kids there were pretty bad, and then throughout going to school, 1 or 2 incidences with the police pulling me over for a ticket. Actually, I happened to be driving home with a classmate of mine, a white female, and I got harassed by the police for no reason. I was not speeding and I was not drunk. There was nothing, but he stopped me and he pulled me over." The last sub-theme was that the participants expressed how success depended on doing extra and sometimes even double the workload compared to others. The second major theme was influences on their ethnic and racial identity, and majority of the participants recalled various experiences that affected their racial and ethnic identity. For most of them, it was a journey, though, but they believed that their ethnic identity was important to them. The first sub-theme was traveling to other places. Some of them shared that their ethnic identity was impacted by traveling and living in different countries because it made them realize that they were different from others. Others talked about being bicultural, and they found that that affected their ethnic identity. And also social events in history, they expressed that they became aware of their race and ethnicity through state that the society was in at the time, and also being aware of white power and privilege was another one that came up for the participant, that they viewed the white race as dominant and they were able to identify it in the society. Another major theme was combating oppression in society. Participant felt like social justice issues was important to them, especially the ones that had felt oppressed, and they always wanted to stand up and advocate for other minorities as a result, and some of them even got involved politically. Either they were running for office or writing editorial papers regarding the rights of minorities. The fourth major theme was lack of early exposure to psychology. Many participants discussed the influences that inspired them to become a psychologist. And one of them was that there was lack of psychology role models. Another sub-theme was other people's career choice expectations. Many of the participants felt that other people in their lives had other plans for them and they wanted them to choose a different career. For example, this is a quote by John. My parents were from working class backgrounds, and their guidance, it was pretty much hands off. The expectation was to pursue higher education, of course, and advance. They didn't, I think at one point when I was struggling, deciding what to do, my father said, well, become an optometrist. And also, psychology not chosen first. Although most of the participants knew from an early age they wanted to work with people and help others, initially they all had a different major in college, and psychology was not their first choice. The theme 5 was the experiences and values of becoming a psychologist, and they expressed that they were passionate about making a difference. They all expressed the desire to making a difference, love for helping others, and the fulfillment that they felt from their work with their clients. The second sub-theme was positive attitude about self and others, and many of the psychologists felt like having a positive attitude helped them, was one of their experiences as they were becoming a psychologist. Getting different experience, many of the psychologists had a variety of different experiences and had lived and worked in many different places. I'm going to read you a quote by Esther. She said, I'm in this role. It was a very good role as a chief psychologist. I did the 1 year in corrections. All of a sudden, I'm head of the department. So that turned out to be a good experience for 3 years. I